Welcome to this standalone session as an introduction to the broader series on growing healthy churches. Our topic for this session is the distinction between leadership and ministry. It is crucial to understand the difference if our ministry leadership is to be fruitful. Let me start by sharing a personal story. One of the biggest lessons I learned as a pastor was this distinction between leadership and ministry. We had great meetings and often powerful times of worship and a tangible sense of the Lord's presence, solid biblical preaching, people saved most Sundays, healthy spirit of prayer, engagement in the community, and dozens of leaders. But I could never understand why the church didn't grow as fast as I would have expected and was believing for. Then I began to hear about Dr. Ian Jagelman's work on this distinction between leadership and ministry. And in his book, The Empowered Church, he wrote how for many years he read numerous Christian books on Christian leadership that primarily focused on matters of integrity rather than matters of skill. In other words, these authors equated godliness with fruitfulness. They regarded the keys to effectiveness in ministry as having prayer, fasting, and holiness, as this diagram illustrates that integrity or character equals fruitfulness. The trouble with this view, he wrote, is that many pastors who faithfully pray, fast, and pursue holiness in the fear of the Lord are ineffective leaders. Rather, he now holds the view, as illustrated in this diagram, that integrity, that is character, plus ministry skills, plus leadership skills equals fruitfulness. He uses David's leadership in Psalm 78, verse number 72 as an example, where it says there that he shepherded them with integrity of heart and with skillful hands he led them. Jagelman then goes on to write how that, to quote Lauren Cunningham, the founder of YWAM, a true leader is a leader of leaders. Some people who are called leaders have a strong preaching gift and attract followers. But, wrote Jagelman, when you look at their ministry team, you see that there are no strong leaders following them. Jagelman argues they are ministers, not leaders. He then contrasts that to other people who may not possess a dynamic ministry gift, but build a large church because other strong leaders with powerful ministry gifts find it easier to follow his or her leadership. This person, he wrote, is more than a minister. He or she is a leader. Jagelman then offers definitions to distinguish ministry from leadership. Ministry is any activity which serves the needs of people. It includes things like preaching, teaching, counseling, praying, visiting, encouraging, and caring. Leadership is any activity which directs, influences, or facilitates ministry by others. It includes such things as planning, decision-making, leadership selection, and vision casting. In this sense, he wrote that people confuse ministry with leadership, and he added that many organizational structures within churches exist solely for ministry, providing very little scope for leadership. Now, most of us in pastoral ministry have strong ministry gifts and skills, and maybe we have a degree of leadership competence, but a crucial key to grow our church is to develop our leadership, and this is primarily outworked by developing other leaders. Jagelman then wrote how, as the church grows, the key is not the formation of ministry teams, but leadership teams. He then warned that without leadership teams, ministry teams will drain the energy of the senior pastor and burnout occurs. So, he underlines the need to develop leaders and leadership teams. Now, we talk all about how to develop leaders and teams in other modules. But illustrating the seriousness of the situation, he conducted a survey of pastors from many different backgrounds on foundational training, and he came to the following data. 93% believe that they receive excellent or adequate training in theology. 61% believe they received excellent or adequate training in pastoral duties, but only 44% believe they received excellent or adequate training in leadership. And it would appear that many people in ministry leadership are trained for ministry, but not leadership. Let's now do a quick comparison between ministry and leadership to see this distinction in practice. Ministry matures people, leadership mobilizes people. Ministers want their people to grow in Christ's likeness, the fruit of the Spirit and spiritual maturity. But as leaders, we want them to be actively engaged in Christian service, exercising their gifts and mission. Ministers personally meet people's needs, whereas leaders facilitate others to meet people's needs. Ministers often like to do the praying, the visiting, and the counseling and caring. But as leaders, they see that the need to multiply ministry is by multiplying ministries. That is the number of people who are doing ministry. And so they recognize the gifts in people and deploy them for service. Ministers are motivated by needs, compassion, whereas leaders are motivated by purpose, vision. Ministry decisions are based on care, whereas leadership decisions are based on beliefs. By way of example, I was teaching this point at a large church in South Africa. And all of a sudden, the pastor stood up and said to all of his team, we've been making decisions to try and keep everybody happy. And we haven't made the necessary changes because some people weren't happy about it. But we now must make decisions based on our beliefs, what we know is right for the future. And until this point, the pastor was making decisions based on care, but he realized he needed to make his decisions based on beliefs, and the church has continued to grow and grow and grow. Let's continue. Ministry builds people up, whereas leaders build up the organization. Ministers tend to focus on caring for the flock, ensuring their welfare, but leaders also focus on building the structure, strategy, programs, and leaders necessary for growth. Ministry people are identified by fruit, whereas leaders are identified by competencies. Ministry develops through spiritual growth, Bible knowledge, and experience, whereas leadership develops through training, mentoring, and experience in a context. Let me repeat again that a key to grow our church is to develop not just our ministry, but our leadership. Now, I'm not saying you have to be one or the other, either a minister or a leader. No. On the contrary, what I'm trying to convey is that if we, as ministry leaders, are to be effective and fruitfully grow our churches, we need to develop our leadership competencies and skills as well as our ministry skills. Or, if we are already strong leaders, we need to foster ministry skills as well as our leadership skills. It's not an either or, but and both. Let me bring you back to Jagelman's diagram that if we have integrity plus ministry skills plus leadership skills, we'll be far better equipped to build a healthy and growing church. We covered leadership skills in the previous series, but in this series we're going to cover ministry skills. And we'll address topics like pastoral skills, counseling skills, visitation skills, how to pray for people, and how to bring corrective discipline. So, please continue watching this series, as I believe you'll find it very helpful for your ministry leadership. See you again, and God bless.